They called him worthless while he stood in a cold marble hallway holding the small hand of his sleepy daughter, the echo of their cruel laughter bouncing off walls that had never known hunger or fear, and in that moment a tired black single father with worn shoes and empty pockets felt the weight of a world that had already decided he was nothing. Yet deep inside his chest, beneath the exhaustion and quiet shame, something fierce and unbreakable was still alive, something that refused to let those words become his truth, and that invisible fire was about to change everything. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and hidden strength, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Bright Hearts, because stories like this remind us that even the smallest, most overlooked lives can carry the greatest light. He had not always been invisible. Once, long ago, before loss had stripped him of everything but his child, he had dreamed of building a future that would protect them both. But after his wife passed suddenly, leaving him alone with a baby girl and a mountain of bills, the world became a narrow tunnel of survival. Every day was a careful calculation between rent, food, school supplies, and the fragile hope that tomorrow might be a little less cruel. He worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices before dawn and stacking boxes at night, coming home with aching hands and a heart heavy with worry. His daughter, with her wide eyes and gentle smile, never complained. She believed in him completely, and that belief was both his greatest comfort and his deepest fear, because he was terrified of the day he might fail her. The elite neighborhoods he cleaned were full of shining cars, perfect lawns, and people who looked right through him as if he were part of the furniture. In those grand houses and towering offices, he saw a world that seemed to run on a different kind of air, one where money made problems disappear and where people like him were only noticed when something went wrong. Sometimes, as he wiped fingerprints off glass doors or emptied overflowing trash bins, he would catch his reflection in the polished surfaces and barely recognize the tired man staring back. Still, he never stopped moving. He could not afford to. His daughter's future depended on every small effort, every long night, every silent prayer. One afternoon, after being publicly humiliated by a group of powerful people who laughed at his appearance and dismissed his ideas as worthless, something inside him shifted. It was not anger in the loud, explosive sense, but a quiet, steady resolve that settled deep in his bones. He realized that no matter how hard he worked to be invisible, the world would still find ways to remind him of his place. So instead of shrinking further, he decided to stand taller in his own quiet way. He began using the few spare minutes he had each day to study, reading discarded business magazines, old textbooks, and anything he could find about finance, technology, and entrepreneurship. At night, when his daughter slept, he would sit at their small kitchen table under a flickering light and teach himself how the systems of power really worked. Progress was slow, and many days he felt foolish for even trying. But every small piece of knowledge was like a brick, and he kept stacking them, building something inside himself that no one could take away. He started noticing inefficiencies in the companies he cleaned for, patterns of waste, and overlooked opportunities that others ignored. Quietly, without telling anyone, he began to write down ideas, not knowing if they would ever amount to anything, but knowing that not writing them down would mean giving up. Meanwhile, life kept testing him. His daughter grew, and with her growth came new needs and new fears. There were days when he had to choose between buying groceries and paying for a school trip she had been excited about for weeks. There were nights when he lay awake, listening to the hum of the city, wondering how much longer he could keep going like this. But every morning, her small arms around his neck and her simple words of love reminded him why he could not quit. Then, one unexpected opportunity arrived, not with fanfare, but with a small crack in the wall that kept him out. A local community program, desperate for volunteers with practical knowledge, invited him to share his observations about small business operations. At first, he almost did not go, convinced that no one would take him seriously. But he went anyway, wearing his only clean shirt, carrying years of quiet experience in his heart. When he spoke, there was no polished confidence, only honesty and a deep understanding of how things really worked on the ground. To his surprise, people listened. Word spread slowly. A few small business owners asked for his help, impressed by the way he could see problems others missed. He never charged much, just enough to keep food on the table, but the work gave him something he had not felt in a long time: dignity.